Thank you all for your patience. My name is Dr. James Currence. I'm currently the adjunct professor of horn at Rhodes College and Union University in Memphis and Jackson, Tennessee, respectively. And I'm here to give another presentation on my electric French horn project. Okay, so you can see in the picture, this is actually from Rhodes earlier this week when I had everything set up, and hopefully it's not too different from what I've got set up there. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so the last presentation I gave was at the International Horn Symposium in Colorado State University. In that moment, it was a lot of very juvenile parts kind of mashed together, and I've developed the system a lot since then. So what has changed since last summer's presentation? I've got some way crazier pedals. The one I had from last summer was a lot of very basic effects, a lot of like your very basic reverb, delay, some distortion like through metal zone, but not anything too out of the ordinary. I've got a lot of new crazier pedals to show you guys today. I started posting way more online and building an online following. This may be how you see me online through my tag electrichornguy on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And I've started learning Ableton and creating backing tracks to help boost this idea of the setup that I have. So it's not just me playing by myself, it's me playing with a backing track, which is this system that you see before you right now. Okay, so let me go ahead and show you what I've got going on. All right, so. Now this all implies that this works, which is not a guarantee. So far so good, everything looks fine. All right, so. Cool, so that's just normal French horn, just with the basic electric mute that you see here. It's essentially a pickup mic within a mute with a plastic sheathing. And the first demo that I want to show is basically the equalizer pedal that I have. It's a Pentatone by Ibanez. It doesn't do much, except for just kind of honing the sound. Yeah, nothing too out of the ordinary. But it helps when you add it in conjunction with other pedals. The next one I have is a whammy pedal. This is one I'm using as a pitch shifter pedal. I usually just have it to where it adds a fourth up underneath my sound. But you can add in all sorts of different harmonies, or you can just straight up change your sound anyways. And it sounds. That one I usually use with the metal pedal that I have, but you can do other crazy things like have it shifted down an octave. And the cool thing is that with the whammy pedal you can actually shift it around. And it can also do crazier things like the dive bomb, which sounds kind of like. Yeah. Ooh. Okay. Make sure that's good. Good. That will come into play later. Okay. The next pedal that I have is a synthesizer pedal. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to add a good synthesizer pedal. There's a lot of options you have available to you, and there's not a clear-cut answer as to like which one's the best. Everyone kind of has their own opinion as to what works. The reason why I chose this one is because it actually comes with an app that you can connect it to an online server where people can create their own presets. You can download the presets onto this pedal and then use them as you want. Some of the crazier examples is someone added to where if you play a note, it starts playing the Meow Mix commercial. Like in that, like I'm not playing it, all I'm doing is holding an F and it just plays it. There's a famous one that's like the Daft Punk sound from their album Homework that they used a lot. that is another option that you have available to you. The pedal itself comes with about 6 different presets, again, that can be changed online. Turn off whammy, equalizer. Yeah, that one's not super great. Let me try. That one's an option I'm going to be using for a later piece that I'm playing today. And then the last one I think is this one, which should be. Yeah. So not crazy. There's other ones you can include that include like an arpeggiator, or you can have a sequencer go on. This one is pretty okay. The tracking sometimes is a little wily and it's kind of hard to control. You do have to dial it in, unfortunately, just like most with everything else. Sometimes some pedals you'll get where it's like the sound you want just pops out immediately. Sometimes you have to actually like sit with it and learn actually how to use it in order to get the best out of it. Okay. The next one is an Ibanez Tube Screamer. This one's very common amongst guitarists. It's just used as a boost pedal, or I use it as a boost pedal. It kind of makes it sound like a kind of like a cheesy horn. Not really a better way to describe that. Yeah. That one's not too much to scream about. It kind of, again, works in conjunction with other pedals to create better sounds. And then the final new one that I wanted to show you is the Boot Mark II by Chase Bliss. This is unfortunately the most expensive pedal that I have. It was quite hefty, but the product you get at the end is very nice. Let's see. Or if I wanted to make it go even longer, let's see. Some people, a lot of horn players tend to like it. A lot of other people are like, it's too ambiance-y, it's too out there. But for me, I quite like it a lot. Let's. Yeah, but the fun thing is actually when you start combining these pedals. So let's see, this is Mood plus Tube Screamer. That one I'm using for a song later. And of course you get crazy other effects because like everything connects, right? So there's that. A common one that you might have seen online is the metal horn videos. The way I get that, you gotta shut off, buddy. There we go. The way I get that going is by hitting, turn that down, heavy metal, whammy. And so what I would use is you try and dial in a sound for what you want, and then you go through your equalizer pedal and say, oh, well, I want the highs kind of a little bit more in there, want the mids a little bit more down, want that a little bit more down. Dial that in, turn that down, mess with it some more. And so that's kind of how I get most of my sounds, which is all great and everything, except you kind of run into a huge wall at some point, which is like, okay, I have a paintbrush and I have this set of paints. What do I do with it, right? And so that's kind of what I've been finding myself in. And so the idea that I've been going for is creating music for that setup. But before I get into that, I wanted to share with you, since there's, I've built an online following, I can show you guys how to. These are tips that I've learned from posting stuff online, because all I did is just post horn videos. One of them caught fire and then it blew up, and that's kind of how it happened. I didn't think, like, when I first posted that first video that went viral, it wasn't like, oh, this one's gonna go viral, guys, this is awesome. It's just like, this is like the 19th video I've posted this month, I don't care, just post it. And then it goes out of control. So this is what I've learned. The hard news is, if you're trying to build an online following in today's age, you have to post every day. That's just that's a hard rule. You have to find something that works algorithmically. You never know what will be picked up. There's been content that I thought would do fantastically well that didn't. There's content that's like, okay, I don't understand how or why people like this, but they do, and it's a wonderful kind of thing that happens. Stay true to yourself. When you're building an online following, people do care the most about authenticity and community. I can't tell you the amount of times, like, I've posted an explanation video about how I do this, and I still get people saying, like, oh, this guy's faking it. He's playing a guitar somewhere in the background and, like, running it through MIDI. So, like, it's a thing that matters to people. Don't engage in follow for follow behavior. Just not a good path to go down. There's tons of people that will just start following me, and the idea is that they follow me and they want me to follow them back in a sort of weird, like, I pat your back, you pat mine kind of way. It never lasts. Those relationships are really hollow. I don't advise it. Unless you want to always live in competition with others, do something that's not being done by others. I'm not Scott Leger. I'm not Kate Warren, and I'm not trying to be. And that's why I'm able to kind of find confidence in myself and in what I'm trying to do. Because for me, it's so out there that, like, anyone trying to replicate this is going to have to go through the trials of making this work, right? In order to make it work. In that vein, comparison is the thief of joy, right? That's kind of a common mantra that we hear a lot. It's hard to keep in mind sometimes when you're doing stuff and you're posting it for other people to scrutinize. But it's still true, no matter what. From what I understand, good audio and bad video is fine. If you have bad video, it's totally okay. But if you have good audio with it, it kind of helps people get past that. Bad audio and good video does not work. Generally speaking, most people don't like that. Most people are like, oh, it looks great, but why does it sound not that nice? When you do find whatever works for you, lean into it. Success online is kind of a mix of doing what your community wants and also doing what you want to do. So you're going to have to kind of hold up two plates at once and sometimes lift some other things and not lift others. There's a ton of songs that I played online that straight up I don't listen to. I haven't really spent a whole lot of time listening to, but other people have wanted me to play it, and so I play it. it's close enough to the sound, they really like it, and that makes me happy. Tip, most people, most non-classically trained musicians, which is not most of us in this room, really love hearing popular music played on instruments. They just do. That's something that a lot of people do really like nowadays. Even music written post-1980. Generally speaking, whenever I post like stuff that I think would do well in like this space, when I'm talking to classical musicians, doesn't do all that well online. Usually gets anywhere between 3,000 to 8,000 views, and in comparison to other videos that I'll post, where we'll get anywhere between like 10K to 50K minimum. And then becoming accessible is the most difficult thing for classically trained musicians. You know, think about it. We sit and we study the French horn for years and years and years and years and years. You get really good with your Strausses, your Mozarts. You're starting to expand out to include more voices, which is a wonderful thing. But it cuts off the average day person, right? And you want to ultimately connect to them if you're trying to build something that's bigger than just playing to other musicians, right? Those are my tips. Okay, cool. And on that note, I'm going to perform one of the pieces that I'm going to perform later this afternoon for a contributing artist recital. I think I'm just going to do Icebreaker since we're kind of a little low on time. Does anyone have the time? 9:18. We're good, we're good, we're good. Awesome. Cool. So, let's go.
Or on.
Let's see. I have to work with this because this has a Bluetooth capacity, which sometimes will activate when I don't want it to. And I have to have a dummy phone that connects to it. And it's dead. Oh well. Let's see. Let me go ahead.
Bluetooth pairing.
That's what I'm trying to avoid. Good to know. While I'm setting this up, does anyone have any questions so far? I was going to do this later in the performance, but while I'm getting this taken care of. Let me go.
You got one back here.
Yeah. Yes.
I came to your presentation last year and it was like mind-blowing and it's so amazing. What things have you found different compared to from last year to this year?
Primarily it's been expanding my skill set to just beyond this. So learning primarily Ableton, which was kind of its own thing that I had to spend months and months just researching.
Bluetooth connected.
There we go. That was primarily it. And then of course learning how this works, because this creates the backing track but also plays a click track, so I can hear like where the music is without it broadcasting it to the audience, which is kind of a whole thing you have to learn. One of the things I did learn is there's actually other horn players that are doing very similar things to this. There's a horn player named Currence up in New York who has found a way to add in contact mics to the inside of a practice mute, kind of like just taping it inside. And it's very, very similar to the system I have here, and we're kind of in talks to like help kind of each other grow this kind of system, since it's very much in its infant stages. Okay, so with that being said, let's turn this on. I actually need my phone. Let's see.
If you don't mind taking another question.
Yeah, what's up?
I'm sorry, you may have said this already, but I came in late.
That's fine.
But with your pedals and stuff, is there like a software that they have to go through, or can you just like plug it and go?
It's just plug it and go.
Just plug and go.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about it. Usually, yeah, traditionally when you play horn with electronics, there's a lot of plugging in things to like help things work, because you need the electronic part of it to work out. With this one, it's just as simple as like a guitarist playing guitar pedals, which is a really wonderful thing. Unfortunately, I didn't get around it all the way because you still have to do the backing tracks, which is itself electronics. Let me make sure this is working. Excellent. Let's turn that up. Okay. And now for this one I need this one, and then this one. All right. Without further ado, this is Icebreaker. The idea behind this is that when I played these sounds, it kind of made me feel, made me think of like one of those Arctic ships with the steel plates on the front that breaks through ice and kind of needs to in order to keep going sometimes. And it just put it in my mind. I kind of just kept noodling around with it, and I ended up creating this piece. And as far as my friends are telling me, they actually like it a lot. And so I'm excited to show this to you. This is Icebreaker. Yeah. Whew. All right. Ah, everything's coming off at once. There we go. Awesome. That's the only caveat. Give me a second. That's the only caveat to all this stuff, is that there's a lot of wiring and a lot of setup and a lot of teardown. Over time, that's kind of the next base I want to kind of improve. This is kind of helping whittle down some of the extra stuff that I'm having to use. But right now, I mean, this is kind of what works for me. The next phase for me, as far as other than obviously helping toning down a lot of the electronic gadgetry, is trying to create new music for this setup. I want to show that, you know, young horn players don't always just have to play the classics. If they want to, they can kind of go into this and know that there is material for them that can exist, and it's not just this noodly nonsense where they might just, you know, do some improvisation. I kind of want to help build this sort of catalog for this idea of using guitar pedals in the same way that we're starting to see, like, you know, electric harp or electric violin, or, you know, I've seen something like Paul Bassoon online has electric bassoon. He's going crazy with that. It's kind of this new, I don't want to necessarily call it a movement straight up, but it's kind of what it is. Now, we have about another 20 minutes that we can use for this presentation, and we can go in several directions. I can either take more questions, or if you'd like, I can play some of my other music that I'm going to play this afternoon. There's another piece that I have called Blasto, Blammo, Bop. I came up with the title before I came up with the music, and that's meant to be more of a showcasing of different voices within backing tracks that you could use with this setup. So we can go in either direction. Would you guys prefer to hear more music, or would you guys prefer to go into questions?
I love music.
We have music. Good for music? Okay,
Yeah.
Cool. We're going to do it. All right, this is the weirder thing that's going to happen. Don't know really how, I know how it's going to go. How it's going to be received is another thing entirely. We're good there, and I mean, it should just be as simple as me starting to play it. Let me turn on.
Can you tell us what your setup is?
Absolutely.
What you're doing?
Yeah, so the Blasto, Blammo, Bop, Blasto is in the vein of the metal horn videos that I've been doing online. It uses the heavy metal pedal along with the whammy set to give me an extra fifth below the main voice, and it's meant to be more noise music. Think in the style of heavy drum and bass, very clowncore-esque if you know those musicians. One of the things I said at the last Mid-South was that that's kind of what I'm wanting to do, and I've gotten close to it. I'm obviously not as great of a musician as those members of that band, but you know, I think it's pretty close. Blammo, which is the second movement, these are all 2-minute pieces, so it passes relatively quickly. Blammo is more in the style of EDM. I kind of took inspiration, my girlfriend watches a lot of RuPaul's Drag Race, and so I've kind of taken inspiration from that to create that sort of EDM-esque kind of style track. And then Bop is kind of what you would expect to hear out of like 90s era Weather Channel music. And kind of in that moment, I'm replacing the idea of like the very kind of nonsensical saxophone-y sound that you might hear with that sort of setup. And so on that note, I think I'm just going to go ahead and do all three of them, and we're going to see how things go. Let me test to make sure we're good. And to make sure I'm doing it in the true style of horn performance, I actually have sheet music. So that I'm not just guessing. Let's see. Let's Blammo. All right. Go. There we go. I'm going to turn this slightly away from you guys because it's going to be pretty noisy for what it is. Hopefully. We'll see how that goes. Okay. And this is Blasto Blammo Bop. Y'all can clap. I don't know why we're doing like the classical music stuff with like, yeah, wait to clap at the end of each movement. I just played some crazy stuff. Okay, this is Blammo. And then this one's my personal favorite. This is Bop. Let's see, da-da-da. And if I have the reverb going on too long, this is going to get real out of control real quick. Okay. Okay. so that is Blasto Blammo Bop. Huh. The hardest part of that was creating the backing tracks, let me tell you. It's actually funny, if you go and you look online and you type in the words how to create Weather Channel music, the tutorial, the bop actually sounds very similar to that, and there's a reason for it. It's very difficult to learn how to do stuff initially without having some sort of help. Okay, so on that note, yeah, does anyone have any questions? Or any inklings about stuff? Yes.
What informed your choice of which pedals and which what do you call it, cabinet to buy?
So a lot of this has been built up over the course of many years. This is originally the amp that I would use to play my bass on, and so like it kind of is. The product is made out of an amalgamation of bits and pieces of things that I've built up for myself over the years. The first pedal that I got for myself for the French horn was a harmonizer pedal, and I wanted to because it's like, oh, this is cool, I can add in extra voices with the horn and it sounds great. And you know, eventually I got kind of bored with that, or I found out that it's like, okay, you can really only do so many types of music with that, and you can only be so many types of different voices, and I was like, well, what would happen if I just got different pedals and tried that out? And then it kind of snowballed into what this is currently. As far as like what pedals I'm using for like the specific songs, when I build the song, I kind of go into it where I build the song first and then I find out what voice works best for me. In the sense of like, when I did Blammo first, like Blammo on its own could just be its own track, but I found, okay, it's like, I kind of want more of a synthy sort of sound there, but not something like super saw. I want something a little bit more rounded as far as the sound goes for that. And then I've always had a fascination with Weather Channel music, so that's like where that came from. And the metal music is like, I've listened to rock and metal since I was in middle school, you know, so that's kind of just a continuation of my passion to play that sort of music. Yeah. Anyone else? Yes?
A little bit unfamiliar with the electronic pedals, but would it be possible to connect multiple and then switch between them like during the same song? That's
going to be for future, because there is a pedal you can use to where you can like save a preset into it and then switch back and forth between those. I do know that exists. I'm not able to get all of that working before this, and so that's kind of the next stage of where this is going to grow into. So it's kind of the beautiful thing of like, you can start doing this and it's just kind of like you're opening the door and it's like, oh wow, there's an entire house behind this door that's completely unexplored. No one's been doing this level of work. So like, it's kind of great in its own regard. You just have to be brave enough to kind of look a little ridiculous while you're doing it. Yeah. Anyone else? Yes.
To someone who wants to dabble in this kind of stuff that you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
what are like the bare bones, the essentials? Like, what should you buy to get into?
Very good question. Okay, so you don't need all these pedals. That's just a given. You don't need all of them. You do need an amp. You do need, and I'm gonna, let me disconnect things first before I start getting super excited and then start tearing them apart and destroying my equipment. The biggest thing to use is this. This is a connector cable that I've been using. It is a 3.5 millimeter jack that connects to a split ring tip cable that goes like this, that I then use to connect to another ring tip thing that connects to a guitar cable. In my presentation last time I talked about how like the guitar cable you want to have a single ring because you just want, I think it's tip sleeve, it's a TS cable is what it's called, connecting to a TRS, which is a tip ring sleeve cable. The reason I have it like this, and I know other people have like, why can't you just use a regular this to like this adapter thing, and it's a power issue. If you try and do it like that, it doesn't give enough power to the pedals to power them all the way, and that's kind of the reason why I had to go with like this crazy stupid setup where it's like I have to have this adapter thing going into it. I'm still taking pointers if any AV people are in here and want to give pointers as to different chords that could work, but that's usually the first response is like, why don't you just use, like, they make adapter cables like this. It goes TRS, unfortunately, to TRS on this end, which isn't enough to power the pedal. So you have to use the adapter. Once you have this, I use an electric mute. Unfortunately, it is expensive for what it is. I've tried silent brass in the past. I've not been a huge fan of it. There's something, and it's been like 3 or 4 years since I've tried it, so I don't remember immediately the reason why I didn't like it. It either had to do with timing issue, like a connecting, because unfortunately you have to worry about latency. Because if it's latent, then like there's no purpose to doing it, because you'll play a sound and it'll wait until it plays the sound out of the amp, and that's not good. But if you want to, if you have a silent brass, you probably could use it in that way. It's just not going to be as good as the best brass E-mute that I use. You could also, if you're technologically minded enough, you could take some contact mics, hook them in that way, and just tape them to the inside of a regular mute. I have seen that work before. Again, Kira Sims up in New York works with that system, and she's way more knowledgeable about it than I am. She's also a great person to talk to about this. But yeah, it's just going to start with like an amp, and then the practice mute that I use. And it's weird because like this has an aux in and a line out port on it. I don't use those. You just stick it into the headphone jack, which for whatever reason works. And then that's how I'm able to connect it to pedals. For a pedal, I would start first with a reverb or a delay. That's going to give you the most, like the best result for the least amount of money that you can spend. Because like, you'll find that as soon as you start dabbling in it, it's like, oh, this is cool. What if I did this? And then that's the rabbit hole. You don't want to go down there if you're not willing to like, be willing to spend money on sometimes really stupid things that might not pan out. But I would start first with a reverb delay pedal, because then at least you can do stuff like Icebreaker. And then if you have any buddies that have a distortion pedal, that's also a great idea to get started with on that. Okay, yeah, and that's pretty much all you need. Obviously, you need a French horn. I didn't think that part needed to be said. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Which electronic mute do you use?
I use Best Brass's E-mute. I know you guys can't see it, it's way too far away, but I use the E-mute by Best Brass. They are a company in Japan that makes mutes like this. When I first dabbled in this, I didn't get into this because I was like, oh, this is sweet, I can connect this to guitar pedals. I was like, I'm a French horn player that's like in an apartment that needs to practice. I need a practice mute that's good, right? And that's where this came from. And it's kind of just happenstance that it kind of works with the electric pedals. If you want to come closer so you can look at what like the actual model itself, I'm more than game for that. Are there any other questions? Yes?
Have you seen those videos where they play like a guitar lick and they're like, okay, now this is what it sounds like when we run it through whipped cream or something. It changes the sound. I don't even know what cable or pedal that would do. Have you ever thought about doing something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. There are crazier pedals that exist where it's like, you can get one where it changes all of your sounds to like a meow sound, so it's like meow, 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 and that's like a pedal that does that. And you can do that. The issue is you're gonna be spending money on that pedal, and it's like, what's the return on it? Can I use that in a song? It's like, I get maybe one Instagram video out of that total. So like, that's kind of tough. That's why a lot of my pedals are like, this does this sort of sound, and then I adjust it to what I need, because then I can get more out of it. Are we still doing good on time? 9:49. We do need to stop so we can let the next person come in and start preparing the presentation. Thank y'all so much for coming and see this. This really means a lot to me. Thank you so much.